Good afternoon. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Monday, July 20th, 2020, and the time now is 3:15. Notice for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Tuesday, June 30th. Second was on Wednesday, July 15th. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on Bill 282-35 LS, the Fiscal Year 2021 Appropriation Act as requested by the Governor, relative to the Guam Public Library System, Fiscal Year 2021 budget request. Joining me for this budget hearing is Senator Kelly Mars Taitano, the Oversight Chair. The budget hearing shall be as follows. The conduct of this budget hearing shall be as follows. Those testifying on behalf of the department will be recognized by myself, the chairman, and I do have the director and her staff on the panel. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimonies may be read, and lengthy testimonies should be summarized. Testimonies shall be confined to the substance. We're here, ladies and my colleague, to talk about FY2021 budget. We may ask you a few questions of 2020, but there shouldn't be that much. We'll ask you to present oral testimony. And once you're done, you are asked to remain in the room for further question or for additional testimony, as may be desired by members of the committee. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and or may be asked to leave or be escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. You will state your name and title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel members from the Guam Public Library System to rise, and for our Sergeant at Arms to please swear them in. Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. I would now ask the panel to please present your testimony. I've noticed that you have slides, PowerPoints you want to present. You may now begin, ma'am.
Buenas, Mr. Chair, and buenas, Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano. I am Arlene Santos, the Acting Director for the Guam Public Library System. And we do have a PowerPoint presentation for you this afternoon. I was hoping that our board would be given the opportunity to come and join me for this, because you rarely see board members getting really involved with the administration part of the organization. But our board members are very involved with what's going on at the library. And this report, this PowerPoint presentation was prepared by Nolan Flores, who helped me put this together for this presentation this afternoon. Slide, please. So the Guam Public Library System provides reference services, learning activities, and a centralized location for the comprehensive collection of informational and educational materials for the benefit and enrichment of the people of Guam. It provides services to individuals and groups with special needs and administers federal grants under the Library Services and Construction Act. The library promotes literacy and helps foster a willingness to learn through the use of available library resources, and is the designated depository for various governmental documents and publications. I bring you to the historical budget overview. Next slide, please. Next. If you look at the appropriations from 2002 to 2020, and I would like to share with you why we started in 2002. 2002, you start seeing the library without any leadership in the director library capacity. So you would see the trend except for 2011, that is an incorrect entry. It's supposed to be 1,023,481 is the correct figure. But you would see that the trend for each fiscal year basically has remained on the average, basically practically the same. There's been no big improvement in the budget. So for many years, for the last 20 years, or almost 20 years, 18 years to be exact, you would see that the library's funding has not moved beyond 1.1. Next slide, please. I'd just like to share with you the federal grants that we have. We have the regular state grant that started with us from 2005 to date, and that's coming from the Institute for Museum and Library Services. And we have a 5-year grant, and we're on the fifth year, and we're entering the 4th or 5th year.
Right.
4th?
4th.
We're entering the 4th year, and from that total grant, we have 1.9 million, which we use for staffing. We hired a program coordinator, and that person is in charge of coming up with activities and programs for the children. And then we also use that money to provide the supplies that we need to process the books that will be part of the collection for the library. Then we have the competitive grant from 1999 to 2018 for that total of $494,000, and that ended in 2018. Those kinds of grants are determined nationally what it would be. We usually use that for digitization of our collections or buying equipment and supplies that we need to update ourselves with technology. Then we have other grants that come from the Department of Interior and the Congressional Library, right?
Right.
And that's 1.8 million for a total of 4.3 million since 2005 to date. Okay, next slide, please. So the recent federal grants that we can add on to that list is the CARES Act grant that we got from, again, the Institute of Museum and Library Services. That $15,000 is going to be used towards making our website, bringing virtual programs to our website for our children to be able to view from home, so they don't necessarily have to come to the library. So we're going to try to bring our website alive using that funding. We also received COVID-19 relief fund from the government, and that's $35,000 that we have for that, and that's to help us sanitize the library, prepare buying supplies to keep up with the CDC protocols for COVID-19. And then just recently, we were told, we haven't gotten the grant award yet, but we are told that we are the recipients from the Department of Interior funds of around $500,000 for our digitization of our archival center documents that are there in the archival center in Barrigada. So the bottom total is not including the archival digitization because we haven't gotten the grant award for that. So that's why you see $50,000 there, because it's just the CARES Act state grant and the COVID-19 relief fund that we actually have the grant award already.
Ms. Santos, maybe you may want to correct that then and strike that what's in parentheses 2005 to 2020, because this is all 2020, correct?
Yes.
You're 50,000. So the statement there that says total 2005 to 2020.
That's incorrect, sir. That's
Okay.
that's just the current. We add on 220.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank
this
you.
is just receipts. Thank you for that. Next slide, please. So we have the current budget, and we were given a ceiling of 1.451, and just a few things that come up on this current budget request is for traditionally we would request for a director, the library, but for some reason by the time we get the funding, that position doesn't get funded. So we're asking for it again, and hopefully we will get it this time. For the fiscal year 2020, that's exactly what happened. The exact amount to hire the director library was not included in the approval of the budget for the library for this current fiscal year. I'm really hoping that the director library and the librarian 3 be funded, because those are positions that the library has not had for the last 18 years. We need to get somebody with that expertise in there to help moving this library forward into the future. It's not, we need that kind of expertise. The program coordinator 3 is something that we need, but that would bring us above the funding. But I just wanted to put that there because we have certain AAA kinds of things that we need to look at. We have statutes that need to be tweaked or repealed or redone. One of them is there's a law that requires us to monitor the parking. We do have library parking for our patrons, and we're supposed to monitor that parking. We provide the staffing for that, but yet the money collected from that goes to the court, not to the library. So we haven't been doing that because of staffing shortages. We haven't been able to do that, and yet, there's nothing, we don't realize anything for the library, so there's no benefit going back to the library, but yet we use our resources. The other statute that needs to be revisited is the depository for government documents. If you look at the DCA Title V for the Department of Chamorro Affairs and for the Guam Public Library System, you would see that there's a redundancy on the statute that says that the depository for government documents is the Guam Public Library, and DCA has the same redundant statute written. So that, we took it upon ourselves because we have a lot of government documents. We opened the archival center in Barrigada, but that needs to be corrected and placed at the agency that you feel should really be responsible for that. Another statute, it would be there's a bookmobile reclassification that has made its way to the legislature, and it's now in its last leg of reclassification, and it's waiting for your approval. Once your approval is given, then the grade for that position will move from grade F to H. So those are 3 statutes that I would like to revisit, but I was hoping that if we got the program coordinator position, I can assign this to that person, but we don't have. If you look at the staffing pattern of the Guam Public Library System, you see library technicians running the library for many years. You don't have anybody in top management level that would be guiding that library. I commend the staff for all the work that they've done, given that they didn't have leadership positions guiding them. Ms. Sandra here is one of those people. She's an administrative officer, but she was one of those that took turns with the library technician supervisor every year, took turns guiding the library, and like I said, I commend them for that, but we need real leadership in there to help that library move forward into the future. Otherwise, you cannot expect big things to happen if you have staff that are only specifically supposed to do library technician work, So I hope that you will, support that we hire a director of library and a librarian. And that is included in the budget ceiling that we have presented to you. If you look at the next slide, please. Again, that is the archival center. Now, with the facilities, if you look at the facilities, you will see pictures that show that the facilities are really need help in making it ADA, making them up to par with, and just giving them a fresh look because it hasn't been painted in many years. But just recently, and we never really had the funding to do this. I did ask the Department of Public Works last year when I was assigned there to do an assessment, and they came up with a figure, $300,000 to bring to compliance all the facilities. But of course, I don't have the funding. So when the Department of Labor had the pandemic unemployment assistance program, I offered to use the libraries as mobile libraries so that we can make, since we're strategically located throughout the island, I have one in Marisu, I have one in Derido, Jonia, Agate, and Agana, and of course the archival center in Barrigada. So other than the archival center in Barrigada, I offered all the other libraries to become a satellite, so to speak, mobile library for those that do not have access to reliable transportation, or maybe just don't know how to use, are not familiar with the usage of computers, because all the applications would be online for PUA. So I offered that, and in exchange, they gave a facelift to I got all the branches painted, so they look better now. I also even have a ramp for the handicap that was built for the Agate Library. So, it's just being creative and trying to help, where we don't have funding to get the things that we need, at least some little bit of bandage kind of help, but at least you have the libraries looking better now. And so PUA was the one that helped us help with those libraries. Next, please. Next slide, please. So those are pictures that show you what the libraries look like now. It looks more decent than it used to. They look very clean and they have a new look, and you see in some of those pictures. Next. That's the Barrigada Archival Center. That's the Hagatnya Library. Then you have the Zonia Library. That also was painted by the mayor, the new mayor from Zonia. And then the Hagat Library has, so all of them got painted, and so it looks better now. And that was done without funding from the library itself. It was the help of the community and the mayor's office and the Department of Labor that put all of this together to help the libraries. Next slide, please. Operations and services. Before COVID, we opened the library in Aganya in the evenings. until 8 o'clock on Monday and Wednesday, and we saw that there was a lot of activity down at the Agate Library, so we had that open twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will not be doing that once we open again because of the COVID restrictions, and so we will be opening just the Hagåtña Library, and we're going to ease our way into opening the rest of the branches as we get the staffing that we need. PUA will be using the other satellite, the other branches for their mobile PUA work, and then we will be opening the Hagåtña facility hopefully by August 1st with limited services. Next slide, please. This patronage, this slide was provided just to show that we do need a lot of help at the library to get technical people to come in there and provide training to do the proper counting of data that would tell us how we're doing with the library. We haven't been able to successfully do that, but I'd just like to announce that I took with me one of my board members, Ms. Nicole Nelson, who represents the information technology seat at the library board, with me to the state data meeting last December. And fortunately for Guam, she got selected to be part of the main committee that will be looking at the state data work that needs to be done nationwide. So we're happy with that she's now part of that main committee. Next slide, please. So our goals is, one, to provide convenient hours and quality services to the entire community. We're trying to do that with, opening our libraries additional hours. Second, maintain and expand current programs while pursuing new programs. And third, grow the library as educational, technological, informational, and a community hub. So the positions that you see here is the one I've been talking about: the director, the librarian 3, and the program coordinator. The director and the librarian 3 are already in our requests within our budget ceiling. If we don't, we're going to have to do without a program coordinator, or hopefully we'll be able to ask for it next fiscal year. But for now, we won't be able to do the things that I listed earlier for that position, which are the AAA processes for the fines and fees, and the statutes that need to be revisited. Next slide, please. In the facilities, I'm also looking at the possibility of reclassifying the building custodian positions at the library, who actually are providing maintenance work. And I'm working with the Department of Administration to make that happen, because they're already doing maintenance work, which is over and beyond a custodial kind of work. So that will probably require future funding. Next slide, please. So again, that's the proposed budget breakdown. We have the director of the library, the funding at $100,174. That's including benefits. Librarian 3, 66. Program coordinator, the bookmobile driver position. Except for the program coordinator, all the other positions we're able to live within the budget ceiling set for us. Next slide. So again, this is just a summary of everything that I've presented to you. And that concludes my testimony, Mr. Chair. Jesus Masi.
Thank you. I have a few questions to ask you. You mentioned you received COVID funds. You received 50 grand, am I correct? Just want to reconfirm it, 50K.
I'm not on,
CARES and COVID funds, you received 50K, correct?
yes, for the
Okay.
CARES Act, yeah,
Yeah, CARES and the COVID. Combination, you received 50,000.
yes.
What did you use the money for again? One more time?
Okay, the COVID is to help us sanitize the libraries, prepare them for opening, and also to get all the supplies that we need for, the protocols.
Okay, now, so that means, are you open today?
We actually are closed, but we've been providing services to the blind and the disabled. That continues to be ongoing, and those services.
So the question I'm going to ask, are you open today for
No.
the blind and for disabled, right?
We are
So
not-
you are open then, right, or no?
We are not open to the public, but we provide some limited services.
Okay. No, the reason why is because you got fund from CARES and COVID that supports you opening. I want to make sure that you're using it for that. Otherwise, you're holding until you get authorization to fully open. Then you can use whatever you need to sanitize. You know what I mean? There's no sense sanitizing if there's nobody going to be in there. Just keep it all wrapped and wait until you need to use it. That's
No.
what I'm trying to lead to.
Yeah. No, we're technically closed for that, so we've already have a purchase order to do that, the sanitization, yeah.
All right, because I know that you still need to sanitize, so while
Yes.
the folks are there, you keep it
Yes.
generally clean,
Yes.
but not necessarily for the public. Okay. Does any of the personnel, do you have any personnel that are outstanding on retro employment salary payment as a result of the Competitive Wage Act of 2014? And if so, how many employees and what is the status of these payments?
The only the thing that I've found is the
1, 2, 3, how many employees you got?
oh.
That could be impacted by the
We're
Competitive
talking,
Wage
I
Act.
think about 18 employees, correct?
You mean that are owed money?
No. Let me just repeat the question. Does any of your employees in the library, okay, are due salary payment as a result of the Competitive Wage Act of 2014? In other words, are any of your employees
No.
due any retro pay, reclassification, or are they all good to go?
They're good to go.
All right, okay. You know that the library is fully funded by the TEF. That's the real property, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. You are aware that TEF today is or has been reported by BBMR. They're showing a shortage of $4.3 million shortage. And in FY2021, depending on the recovery period, these funds will likely receive less funding. How will the library prepare for such shortfalls?
The Territorial Educational Fund is what you're talking about, or the Tourist Attraction Fund?
No, the TEF, TEFF.
Oh. Well, our budget has traditionally been depending on government funds. So it'd be difficult to move forward if we are really drastically cut.
Okay, you understand that the library is fully funded by the TEF. There's no TEF money going to you that I'm aware of, not unless you know of something I'm not aware of. I'm looking at the budget digest. Your whole budget is funded by the TEF, the Territorial Education Facilities Fund, which is your real property tax. You're in competition with DOE. Let's put it that way. Very simple. You get a lot less than they would get. But I'm just concerned is that you're asking for 1.4 million. I think last year we did discuss to do with the librarian. Was the librarian ever hired, or did you receive the funding for a librarian last year or this year? 2020? You
No.
didn't get any money?
We didn't get funded.
Okay, I'm just hoping that the TAF pulls through so that we can provide you what you need. Seriously. Senator Kelly, the oversight, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Siduous Maasi, Mr. Chair, and Siduous Maasi to both of you for being here. Your presentation was very helpful, and I can see in looking through your materials, as we've been seeing ever since your placement there, that everything is very organized, so I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
And with that, I wanted to go through a few things. So as you mentioned, we're very fortunate to have personnel there who've been there for a long time, so they're very familiar with the library, they're very familiar with the patrons and things like that. That's a benefit to us. And we've seen some really wonderful things happen. There's a mural on the outside of the Hagåtña Library. We've got the bookmobile in place. Can you discuss a little bit or just describe a little bit for us with the bookmobile? How many days will it be out running, maybe especially in this new situation? And how will it be getting around the island? And will there be special COVID-19 protocols for the bookmobile? If you could just walk us through that a little bit.
Of course, we're going to have to continue to practice social distancing and, and all the other CDC protocols for COVID-19. We hope to move the bookmobile once the Bookmobile Foundation, which is a private foundation, I guess they're working on their documents to make them all in order. The bookmobile is ready to go. I'm just hoping that I can get the position approved that's now in your hands prior to being told by the Bookmobile Foundation that they're ready to roll out. But we will be practicing all of the CDC protocols, and we will be taking we plan to take that bookmobile around the island, and it would be from Monday to Friday. We haven't really discussed on weekends. That would depend on the need. Once we start rolling them out, then we'll probably start tweaking the schedules and see which is more workable for the community.
Siduous Maasi for the explanation. And it's just so good to hear that the board and yourself and the personnel have thought ahead and gotten that Bookmobile Foundation to start getting organized, because that just provides that continuing support. And so I really, really commend you all for thinking along those ways. I think when we have those connections between the community and vested people who really understand what it can provide, that it just does so many good things. So I really, really appreciate that. And, as we're going forward into this year, historically, we have a good portion of the population that maybe have less access to transportation. And then, of course, kids are, they have real limitations depending upon their parents' work schedule and other things. So I just am so pleased to see that the bookmobile has been moving along and is making steady progress, and will be continuing to move along and get out there, like you said, if we get that position funded, but that it can be serving the community. So I really appreciated hearing about that and seeing that work. With the archives as well. So we were talking a little bit about, this morning we had the Department of Administration in here, and they've got apparently quite a collection of boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of documentation. So with your archives, I'm trying to think of partnerships here and how different agencies can be helping each other out and so forth. Does the archives have a fee schedule where they could be working with an entity like the Department of Administration to help them scan and archive and work with those documents?
Well, that's one of the challenges that I'm faced with right now. The fee schedule is very outdated. I don't even, the highest we would charge anything is $20. It takes more for anybody for the staff to do the paperwork than the amount of money being realized. But that has to be taken to a AAA process that requires, a lot of steps that need to be fulfilled before that can be approved. And I'll just give you an example. When we first got the CARES grant, we were supposed to do something about making it more infotech kind of, for our patrons, for our children. So one of the suggestions the staff put up was to get MiFis so that the patrons can borrow the MiFis, right? Well, I shot that one down because the maximum that we would charge on a fine is $20, like I told you. So, and the only penalty that you get out there is that they won't allow you to borrow anymore if you don't return it, right? Well, that's a $200 MiFi. Right? So if I was the one that would borrow the MiFi, I'll pay the $20, and just keep the MiFi. So it's like we're putting out something that we're not even, we would probably lose the first year lending them out. So that's when I got into talking to Guam Serve, or Serve Guam, and I'm working out now an arrangement with the AmeriCorps group there to bring our website alive, and put virtual programs into our website so that our children can go and view that at their home. So that's what we're working now to use that funding for, rather than the first suggestion of buying MiFis.
Yeah, it's so good to hear about your reaching out to AmeriCorps and Serve Guam and having these kind of visions about virtual programs and bringing the website to life. There is a digital divide, but many in our community do have access through a phone or other devices, and we can always be working to tackle that. I know the GDOE is also looking at some of those issues, so I think if across different agencies, we look at how we can get our community connected, and we look at how we can get them, to connect digitally. The more you're offering in that way, the more they'll have access. And one of the things that was talked about was, working with these mayor's offices, that if they have some computer centers, and I know at least the Hagatna Library has computers that are available, but we can maybe find ways to bring those students in that don't maybe always have access. Well, is Hagatna the only library that has computers?
All our libraries have computer stations. Even the children's library has computers for the children. We're just preparing them right now for social distancing. But we've had that available for, a couple of years, several years now, right? So even like I said, the children's library have their own laptops, the kids' library, the children's library.
That's excellent. That's really helping the community with that digital divide. All across the nation, it's a real issue. Mm-hmm. And if they have these spaces, like in the libraries, maybe even also at the mayor's offices, then we're helping them tackle that. So that's good to hear. And then it was also good to hear your approach that Hagatna is going to be open first, and it's going to be the model, and that the other libraries will be opening after that, and that you'll be implementing those COVID protocols. So let me get to a few other questions. It sounds like you're working through some government-to-government partnerships. The one with the foundation, that's very good to hear, as I mentioned. Are there other public-private partnerships that you've looked at or thought of? I know you're only one person and there's only a certain number of staff, but are there any thoughts that people have been talking about?
The Bookmobile Foundation that's a very good example of the public-private partnership that we have, because the Bookmobile Foundation is they're providing the the bus, of course. They're retrofitting it for our library. They're going to put in GTA's putting in the Wi-Fi's in, and all we need to provide is, and they're gassing that bookmobile. They're going to be doing preventive maintenance on that. So all we are required to put in is the staffing and the book collections. Yeah, so they provide everything else. The other is the mural that you talked about earlier. That was another public-private partnership where we had sponsors from the private sector who paid the artists to put that mural on. So we're working on those things, to get the private sector to join us, and the board is also working on establishing the Friends of the Library, reviving that part of their board work, because by law they can receive donations, they can solicit and receive donations, the board.
The Friends of the Library sounds very good. These are areas that are just so ripe for growth for Guam, I think. And part of what I think is really beneficial, not only can they be cost offsetting, which is important, but I think getting that stakeholdership into people recognizing the value of places like a library, the value of something like a bookmobile, and the more that we're invested in it, the more that we're interacting with it, the more that it's just got this dynamic where it's truly benefiting our community. So these are very important things to hear about, and I really appreciate everybody working towards that growth with leveraging the public and inviting them in to be part of it and making these government partnerships as well. In looking at the staff, so we looked at the staff pattern a little bit all together, and we talked about some of the vacancies and the needs. Are there any of your staff that might be up for retirement this year that you're aware of, or is everybody expected to perhaps be in place?
I'll yield that question to my administrative officer.
Ooh, sorry. There's one library technician that will be retiring July 31st this month, and I had submitted also the GG1 for recruiting for her position. That's only one of the retirement that I know of.
Sejus Masi, and thank you for already having started recruiting, because the timeliness of that is really important, and so that's really good to see. With the staff right now, are they doing a lot of the organization that's getting you ready for the eventual opening? Is that a lot of what they're doing right now?
We have been doing that, yes, and we're currently waiting for purchase orders, like for the cleaning, the Clorox, whatever cleaning supplies that we need. So we're currently waiting on all those purchase orders.
Sejus Masi for that.
You're welcome.
And so we've had some really good discussion about the COVID monies, the CARES Act monies, and yes, for a place that's such a community gathering area, I'm so glad to hear that the sanitation is in place and that you guys are really thoroughly looking at that. Are there any issues that you foresee with opening up the book part of the library? Are you going to do this in stages where it's the computer and more the digital side of the library at first?
Well, what we're doing is we're going to limit the time that anybody would come to the library to about an hour at a time, because we will be social distancing the computer stations, of course. So that would probably cut down the number of stations to about 50%. And that's throughout the library, because we have computers at the children's library, like I said earlier. We have the reference room for the adults. We have the juvenile section area too for children in middle and high school. And then we have the older people, that may have some disability. We have those stations available as well. So we will be cutting down the availability of the stations, and that's why we need to limit the number of people that will be coming into the library.
Seduis Maasi for outlining that. And really, I think we've covered things pretty thoroughly. Your presentation went through a lot of the information for us, and that was really helpful. The chair had a lot of important questions. And so, yeah, I just want to mention that it's good to see that you are working on strategies to really continue to make the libraries a central part of our lives. And maybe it sounds like re-envisioning them a bit so that they fit our modern lifestyles and they fit our modern needs. And then now they're additionally taking on these COVID-19 protocols. With the Department of Labor, I guess this would be my last question. With the Department of Labor, is there an understanding of how long they'll be using the facilities?
Just this weekend, I asked them to return the Hagåtña Library to us because, I need to open also, but, and they can go ahead and use the other branches for now. They haven't given me a date on when they're going to be expiring this work on PUA. But I only asked for the Hagåtña Library because we only plan to open the Hagåtña Library for now. Yeah.
Seduis Maasi, Mr. Chair, and Seduis Maasi to both of you for answering all the questions and providing
Seduis Maasi
helpful,
for having
useful
us.
information. Yep.
Thank you. Did you ask the Department of Labor, why don't they pay rent for using your building so that it'll help you with your funding? I mean, I don't know, have you approached them about it? If they want to continue using it, then pay for the time you can't use your building. That's just something to approach them about. They got a lot of money. They're able to hire a bunch of folks. They should be able to pay for the space they use that you can't use. Okay, I just thought I'd ask you that question. Another one is that, do you receive any funding from the passport office?
No.
The library does not receive it versus DOE does get 50%. You don't get a penny from that.
Maybe we should be a recipient of that.
I'm going to look into that because I'm very curious because I know that DOE receives 50% of the passport fees.
Thank you very much. That would be helpful.
All right. Thank you for today's presentation. I really appreciate it. The committee will, and thank you, Senator Kelly, for your questions. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Augustine at gmail.com. Seduis Maasi for your attendance and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 282-35 relative to the Guam Public Library System is now adjourned. It is 4:03 p.m. Thank you very much. We will now take another 10 minutes so that the system will reset itself for the next hearing, which is in 10 minutes. Thank you.